Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy podcast from Fantasy Football Hub. Paul, how was your Sky weekend?
Yeah, I thought it went okay. I've not risen massively in ranks, but I was pretty happy with all the players that returned and points totals, and seem to be doing okay in a lot of competitive leagues without making massive overall rank jumps. So yeah, pretty happy.
I thought you rose a fair bit. I did. I went from, I think it was 11, I want to say 11k to 6k, and I just did the Rodri to Madison move yesterday, which gave it a little bit of thought, but seemed probably most obvious in the end. Is that the move you made?
Yeah. Like I know a fair few people were disappointed with the Rodri sending off, but I like it when something happens on a Saturday to a highly owned player, even if I own them, because then it um, opens up plans, and I can make a new plan very quickly. And I had a problem going into Sky Gameweek 9 where I really wanted a Spurs player in, and there was no obvious fixture gain for me, and I didn't want to lose a player necessarily yesterday anyway. So yeah, it worked out nicely, I think.
I like those as well because it can, like, those transfers, the players you really want but you just can't get to, and your discipline keeps you from getting them. These kind of things just kind of can make them happen, don't they? So
I genuinely thought that a loose consideration was to lose Rodri anyway, which I didn't really want to do, and I probably wouldn't have, but it had been something that had crossed my mind anyway. So the fact that it opened up that way.
Very good. Yeah, you're up to about 7.5k, I think. I'm 6.3. Pretty hygiene moves, I think. I've used 6 transfers. I don't think I've made one move yet. I did do Nakamba to Basuma. Nakamba getting another 5-pointer yesterday. Look at that smug look. You can't help yourself.
Yeah, like I said at the time, I was very open about not wanting to move him on. I thought he was averaging 3 tackles a game. That was the reason for getting him in. I didn't think he'd get passing bonus or any attacking returns. And he's going to sit there for the long run. I had loose plans to move him on at some point, but I think I'm just going to hold him long term now.
I think that's a good shout, especially because he got the extra fixtures in the short term. And yeah, if he's just there as like an enabler, he's perfect for you, isn't he? So yeah, good stuff. Welcome everyone in the chat. Windy1965 is in. He says taxi for Rodri and one-way ticket to the moon for Jackson. We're going to touch on Jackson this evening. We kind of laughed last week that he's going to get booked and get banned, not thinking that, in the slightest that he was actually going to get booked, considering he's on 4. But unbelievable, really.
Yeah, and I didn't realise that there was no cross competition on the bookings as well. With the red cards,
the reds, it's a Carabao.
You miss the cup games as well. Yeah,
incredible. Jason Harry is in. Jason Manners, Tim Barry, Paul Kendo, Simon Jeffrey says strange old week. I've officially given up on Chelsea. Andy Barnett says hi gents, and you'll be watching this evening as Fergi embarks on his double shift. I will. If you play Dream Team, I'll be on Dream Team Tonic live this evening as well, starting about 8 o'clock. So if you're a patron,
it's a triple shift after nip and a half.
After nip and a half, three podcasts in one evening is pretty good going, isn't it? Rich Darley is in. Says Rodri was a blessing in disguise. I needed Salah. Yeah, that's the way it goes, isn't it? Perfect for you. Sam D. Taylor, Gio Boy, Julian Wardle, injuries and suspensions galore. Alan Jago, Gary Plant, Dave Hannigan, Mark Bennett, Dave Baxter, Manchester, Johnny White. Arwin Vogue was having a cracking season so far. Manchester United said I thought Madison looked in trouble when his knee locked. Yeah, it did look pretty horrible, especially given his previous injury record. But I just looked; he's been flagged on the Sky site, but it's showing as he'll be back. Well, back next weekend. I personally think the fact he played, he'll be a bit sore. I think, but it looked just like one of those a bit of a jar. He managed to play on. He wasn't fit anyway, apparently, but I think he'd be fine. Even if he misses the one game next week against Liverpool, at the end of the world, right? So, and Graham Craig says, yeah, Windy always first, must sit waiting all week. I think he does. I don't think he actually logs off. I think he just sits all week on there. Yeah.
If you've got subscriptions, can you auto connect? I don't know.
I'm not sure auto connect, but that'll be a thing, wouldn't it? Viney says, I went Rodri to Botman, but stayed 7.7k. Yeah, there must have been a fair few points scored yesterday. Botman scored 17 points yesterday. Newcastle defence will be touching on those too. We thought we'd just have a quick look at the top 1K ownership. Not that either of us are in. I don't think there's many in there yet, though. I thoroughly expect there'll be a whole host of us in there by Christmas. But yeah, in terms of ownership, Haaland 90% owned, as you'd expect. Saka 81, Salah 69. A couple of more surprising ones there, maybe. Walker 8.6 million, 49.7%, and Edison 45% as well. The dreaded Edison for those who held it for most of last year. Saliba in at 42, Alvarez 34, Maddison in 30% already. Bomo has been doing well for owners so far this season, 28. Estupinan, maybe surprisingly, still owned by 27% there. Declan Rice went off yesterday with, I think it was a cut. He had his ice carved up. He had his calf iced up, but then on one of the sites I saw it was a back injury, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure what is the matter with him there. Awoniyi in 26, Moussa Diaby 23, who could be a popular move in the coming weeks. Gusto 21%. He's going to be shifted out, I think, after he's going to get a ban now, and a few more Chelsea players in there. But yeah, Paul, any surprise? I think Walker and Edison were surprises for me at half teams.
Have you ever owned Walker in Sky? I've never once. I think
Liam Dorian has owned him a couple of times, haven't he? I think he likes him, but he started the last something like 12 league games. He plays 90 every week. He's a pretty good.
Yeah, and because he doesn't always get passing bonus.
No, he doesn't. He did do an interview yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, where he was saying that he's really enjoying this new advanced role to get more assists, more goals. So he could really be a good option going forward. Just 8.6 for a piece of that defence. Like I say, he started every league game. I'm sure he started the last 12 league games or something. So, he could be a good one. Anyone else leap out at you there in terms of being surprised?
I still think Matoma's quite high. It's interesting, not the Chelsea boys, because I think they'll all large transfers out. I watched the Brentford Everton game. I thought Mbeumo was really poor. I thought Brentford in general were really poor.
Yeah, he's gone off the ball.
It's funny. Like, I'm always. I like promoting like small accounts on Twitter, and I like the zonal weaknesses one that I referenced a lot last year when I was making decisions. And I've come across a new one today. It's called Stevie Chunder. So it's at SCHTEVIE Chunder, all one word. And it's about runs in behind stats. That's all his analysis is on, is runs in behind. And there was some some real fascinating stuff about runs in behind in dangerous positions, and Mbeumo's stats have massively dropped off the last couple of games for Brentford as well. So whilst there's not a large sample size, I did find that very interesting, especially when coming up to the single captaincy day against Forest next week. And Brentford still have got okay fixtures. I'm just not as kind of desperate to get them in. I think I'll be missing out on him. These early season stats were great, but it's kind of dropped off a bit. And Matoma from Brighton. I don't think I'm going to touch any of the Brighton midfielders. I think Dunk's the only one that has any kind of longevity for me in Sky. I know Estupinan's still got that attacking intent, but with their hard fixtures coming up, if I had doubled up, Estupinan would possibly go, and maybe Dunk stays if you're in that situation.
They've got a gap as well in their fixture, Brighton. We'll take a look in a bit, but a lot of teams have got like 4 for 2 over Brighton, and the two, I think it's Liverpool and Man City in it. So expect. I'll be taking. I've got a loose-ish plan to take him out. I think after the Villa game next weekend.
Even Dunk, if you're doing some sort of daisy chain, and I wouldn't lose Dunk for a player and then use that player to bring back Dunk, probably, unless you got like a couple of captaincies out and made it like really worthwhile. But you could take Dunk out, bring someone in with the view of taking out a player that you don't want longer term after that to bring Dunk back. It's an option for it as well.
Rich Darley in the chat says he's had Walker from the start. He started every game and so cheap for a City defender. I'm just having a look. He played 89 minutes in game week 1. He's played 90 since, and he also played 7. Started 7 of the last 8 games of last season as well, and that was when City were going through a lot of rotation as well. So I think he is this new trusted right back. I think he's a good option going forward. Obviously not yet, but.
And I think even with City's fixtures coming up, if you were on him already, then great. Yeah. I just don't think now is the time to buy him.
Agree. Average transfers remaining quickly, flying down again. The top 5,000 now on 37.1. We're edging ever closer there, Paul.
there's an open team in the top 20, I think maybe like 15th, 16th, and Captain Trippier had Botman, Pope, and maybe another Newcastle defender yesterday. And you just look 5 transfers used, taking out all the kind of players that you would never want to take out long term stuff. I'm just taking no notice. Christmas times are the time that I'll start taking more heed of that.
Top 1,000, 33.1, top 100, 29.2, and top 10, 27.7. As you say, nothing really there. But I suppose as we edge closer and rank closer to these ranks, it kind of gives you a flavour of where you are. So I think I'm on 44, just outside top 5k now. So reasonably happy with that. Got most of my plans in place. Say that I am planning 3 transfers in the next 3 game weeks. I think I've been tracking about 1 a game week on average. I think is about right. I think we touched on this last week. We got a bit of a few questions later just on. Well, I suppose actually we could ask it now. I haven't got the actual question up in front of me, but we did have a few questions around sort of planning and transfer accounts. For those who haven't had the best of starts. So we had a couple of questions on how do you plan and how do you stay disciplined on transfers. What are your general thoughts on that, Paul?
I always have a loose plan. I think that I've only just started forming my loose plan for this season now, based on having more information to hand. That's why I wasn't keen on moving the goalkeeper out. I know that a lot of people moved on to Pope yesterday and got 9 points to begin with. Start off the kind of Pope journey, which I would have taken, had made the move, but I always have a loose plan. And then if something breaks, like an injury or news on something. I always use the example when Aguero was rotating minutes with Jesus at Man City, and an unplanned transfer I used when we saw the Man City team sheet and there was no Jesus on the bench and Aguero's in the team. So this could be an example like Newcastle, you get a team sheet and Wilson's there and no Isak on the bench, or vice versa. That feels like an opportune time to kind of make the move that was perhaps unplanned, and then just make sure that you've got your captaincies covered and everything else coming in line. So one thing I always try and do is not get locked in a formation, or if I am, that I've got a plan to remedy that quickly. So 3-5-2 I think is the worst formation, and 4-4-2 for me is the most fluid, because in 4-4-2 you can almost, like, I think there's only one permutation or one combination of formation that you can't get to by taking any player out to get to another. So I've always got the plan where I think I want to pick up my next player in a certain position as well. So I'm currently looking at Jordan Bear, which I'll double with Nakamba and 2 of the most cheapest outfield players in the game, which makes forward planning a lot easier, because then I've got the budget aligned and the positions aligned, and then I've got everything coming up. So always have a loose plan. I always try and play the fixture games. I'm not saying that I've never made a move early and not fixture game, but it's very, very minimal of when I've done that. And I've never used 2 transfers for 1 player either. Or if I am and I want the player in 3 weeks' time,
you used to, you don't anymore.
Yeah, I did that. Like Aguero's done me really well sometimes, and he's also killed me sometimes as well. When I used 2 transfers and I brought in a player I didn't really want, but and then I think did he score a penalty and then got injured at half time or something like that, and a 4-0 victory when City went on a big on that big run when they had the extra fixtures that time. And I was kicking myself afterwards. So yeah, always have there's great planning tools. Ian Parron's planner, and FF stuff's got good stuff on the fixtures as well, which we use on this podcast all the time. So look, loose plan, don't wed yourself to something, but always freeing up budget, always being fluid with your formations is something. And yeah, it's those what I'd class as luxury transfers. Yeah, sometimes they come off, like the Onana to Pope move yesterday looked good on paper, but I'm happy not to use the extra 0.3 budget, and Man United have good fixtures coming up. And I didn't realise this until before we came on air. I had a look at some of the stats, but Onana's 6th overall in the goalkeeper rankings, an 11-pointer and a 12-pointer in there as well.
Yes, make so many saves.
Well, yeah, but then like some of the goalkeepers, if you're shooting from distance, if you're conceding shots from distance, that's good for keepers in this game as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy where I am. Just have a loose plan, use the fixture planners, have a look at some emerging data points. Like, I think there was a question came in as well about who I think the best captaincy on the Forest Brentford game. I think even if I did think it was Mbeumo, which I'm not 100% sure on now, if you've already got cover like a Wanye, I personally wouldn't be moving on unless it was I'm going to get Mbeumo in for the long term, and then I've got Wanye, and then I'm going to move a Wanye on to somebody else. But I think Forest have Luton at home on the first game back after an international break, so he's another that, whilst I don't envisage having him long term, I think that might be a jump on point to kind of Aston Villa or maybe even Spurs if I've freed up the money with the Bear move at that point.
I think in terms of this season as well, we had a question around, is this season a bit different? And it does feel it for me. I think we've had a couple of awkward single game days, which have forced our hand a little bit with, certain kind of transfers. We talk about Awonyi and obviously the Chelsea kind of in and out because they looked really good and then they looked really bad. And there's Burnley coming up with Luton and things like this as well. So like last year, I had 9 transfers used at first overhaul, which was November, which was, how many games was that? Like 15 games or 16 games? I think it was 15. And this year I've already used 6 in 6 weeks, but it doesn't feel like I've overused at all. And I'm quite happy.
I agree that there's been more awkward single game days this year where you were getting fixture gains as well, because I don't like the ones where it's on a Friday and you're using one before your player's already played, because you're only really gaining one game for a mediocre player in some instances rather than 2. But it evens out. It does feel different because we've had the single game days, but I would still be keeping a similar sort of pattern to what previous seasons has. I think that even more so on that basis that we're going to come to the end of the season and still be short.
No, of course, and that's it. But I don't. I think maybe Nakamba to Bissouma, like looking at it, was potentially a luxury transfer. But I think other than that, the other 5 I've made have all been, single game days or Rodri to Maddison really, or getting off a single game day player. And I think the ones I'm looking at now, the 2 or 3 I got lined up now, are all in that similar sort of vein. Maybe like I'll be taking out Estepinen, I think, but I don't think I'll be getting him back, and there'll be gains and stuff there. So I just think if you feel you've already used a fair few transfers and you're not quite feeling the benefit, I wouldn't really worry about it. Personally, unless you're using like 10 or 12, then start to really calm down. But I think 1 a game week is very reasonable. Personally, don't forget. I think that people think that they can have the transfer cap they had last Christmas, but last Christmas started on the 12th of November last year because of the World Cup, so it's very different. There's only 15 games. There was 15 games played up until, well, there's going to be kind of 19 or 20 now up until Christmas in there. So
the Nakamba to Bissouma move's interesting because I can see the argument on both sides. Like, everyone got Nakamba for a certain reason, and I think that he was unlucky not to return the points. So that, for me, was a bit outcome based. However, Bissouma does look like he's got different avenues to points as well. So I get that. I think one of the questions was, am I smug about it? I mean, I'm happy I didn't use the transfer, and I'm happy it's worked out in the long term. I'm more smug about the Chilwell one than I am the Nakamba one.
Yeah, he's been a disaster for owners, he has, hasn't he, Chilwell? He's gone from being like, a potential...
I saw a lot of people moved on. Or I've seen references to people moving him on to Trippier yesterday. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, in that case, the butterfly effect has worked out well for people, haven't it, for those who didn't have him. Speaking of Chelsea, we asked a question, abandoned ship. So Jackson banned now for their single game day, which a lot held him for, which we did touch on last week. I didn't think it was going to happen. I got to be honest. Especially,
and I'll say I thought that it was going to be the League Cup that he was suspended for anyway. So
and the fact that the manager came out and said, we've had a chat about him getting suspended. We're going to make sure, and then he gets suspended anyway. So he's out. Colwill potentially looks like he could be leaving a few teams after the single game day if you still hold him. His ownership was a lot lower than I thought it would be. There's been a lot of ownerships that have been a lot lower than I thought it would be. Like Diaz, I looked yesterday. I expected Diaz to be in about like 30-40% of teams. He's in like, I think it's like 11% or something crazy like that. I was really surprised. So Colwill he's in.
That'll be a lot of dead teams, because remember, he wasn't in the starting lineup on the first day of the season as well. I think.
Okay, yeah.
Diaz. Maybe that's had an effect on him.
So Colwell's in 6% overall and 17% in the top 1K, and Diaz is it is higher than I thought. It's 12% overall and 17%. But I thought it'd be higher than that. I really did. I was really surprised when I saw that. And we've also got Enzo Fernandez, who was again another one who's flattered to deceive.
I just don't get the appeal of him as a Sky fantasy asset. I didn't own him all last season when I
got the appeal last year.
Oh, by the way,
come on,
check came.
Look at that, the big novelty check, £50,000. You're gonna get pissed.
It's a fake sort number, a sort code and account number. So if I do pin it on the wall and anyone sees it, it's not my actual bank details.
Are you gonna hang that on the wall behind you or something, or what are you gonna do? Will Katie have that?
I work from here as well, so probably not.
Let's see. You can put some in kind of corporate over the top of it, and then whip it back when it's thing. Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really see it last season either, and this season even less so. Is someone that doesn't pick up tackling or passing to the regularity of a Rodri, or
he got passing every game last year when I owned him. He did, and the odd tackles maybe, but yeah, other than that, like this year, completely different.
Well, he's playing like in some sort of box to box role that doesn't really suit the Sky game, because there's no consistency in any tiers there, and he doesn't shoot enough to warrant any attacking bonus on there as well. So I would get rid of all Chelsea players coming up. There's not any that interest me. I don't like Sterling's only returns this season have been against Luton. Is that right?
Sorry, mate, I missed that.
Sterling's only returns this season has been at home to Luton. Yeah. So yeah, there's nobody there that interests me at all. I will be getting rid of Colwill myself. Maybe not immediately after they play Burnley the week after, although I don't expect him to pick up any bonus if he's still in the team at that point. Sanchez has done well for owners. I think he's 4th overall for goalkeeper picks. And there's quite a lot of questions. I think someone had, there was a conversation in one of the threads on our tweet that would be my answer to the question. If I rolled into that game and didn't have cover, what would I do? And if I was in a position where there was a player in my team that I didn't want long term, and Lewis Dunk could be the answer to this, because if you look at the games that Dunk's got coming up, you could Dunk to Thiago Silva, because you know that Thiago Silva starts on a base of 5 points. Double it up, so whatever he gets, they could get a clean sheet. Like I say, it's not really defensively that's been Chelsea's biggest issue. Then play the single against Burnley, then move on to someone else, and then move someone back to Dunk the following week. That is 3 moves. But what you're doing there is taking out a player that you don't want and picking them back up. Or if you don't want to do it with Dunk, but you've got someone else in your team like a Wanye, and you didn't want him long term, and formation allows, then you could move him down. But Thiago Silva would be the one, only based on the core base. So if he's got 5 doubled up to 10, even if they did concede, it wouldn't feel like the end of the world for me in that situation, like using one transfer, like to transition through to somebody else, and then pick up a player that you wanted on in the following week.
Does answer a lot of questions. Yeah, I've been looking at I've got Colwill and Estepine. I think I'll be, just looking, because Chelsea play Burnley, don't they, as you say, the following Saturday, whereas Brighton don't have a game. So I'll be taking Estepine out first, getting the extra game out of Colwill, then selling Colwill after that, I think. So, yep, good stuff. And all aboard. So Newcastle defenders fly onto the radar.
So here is my next prediction. So Nakamba, Chilwell, and I'm going that I still maintain that Newcastle defenders aren't good assets in Sky. And I know they've got a good fixture run, and I know they will pick up clean sheets in some of these games. You're not going to be playing Sheffield United every game, so you're not going to be picking up the passing bonus that Shard and Botman picked up. That was Botman's first goal for Newcastle as well. Like if you brought him in, fair play. If you brought Trippier in, fair play. I don't think they're terrible assets by any stretch, especially with the fixtures coming up and the lack of cleans in the Premier League in general this season as well. So I'm not saying they're terrible assets. I just don't think that they are must-haves for me, and I've got no immediate intention of picking any of them up.
What about Pope?
I like Pope because it's like when we're talking about the bases of bonuses for defenders and how I pick them up. Like goalkeepers don't start off on the base bonus anyway, and therefore 9 for the clean sheet. And Pope does. I don't think he's picked up passing bonus that much this season. Saves bonus that much this season yet. But I don't mind the Pope move, and I prefer that over the Newcastle defenders. I actually thought they look a little bit overpriced for me. I know they're like in the 8.5 range.
Yeah, I was looking at Pope. Part of the reason why I didn't do on to Pope this week is you can also do it next week because United now got the 2-for-1 back over Newcastle now, but then Newcastle go for a 3-for-1 over United then, and then United got Man City after that. So that was why I was looking. I still haven't made my mind on whether I want to do it or not yet. It feels a bit of a luxury transfer because then you look at United's fixtures either side of that Man City and after. I mean, after that they go Fulham, Luton, Everton. They've got United have a sea of their fixtures are really strange. They have fabulous fixtures with one really difficult one shoved every kind of 4 or 5 games, but all around them they're really nice. So
if I find I need more budget, which if I'm going to have Bear and I'm going to have McCann, I shouldn't be getting into budget problems. But if I do, Areola is only 6.6, and he's another for consideration. And because West Ham play in Europe, he always plays on the Sundays,
and they have a really nice fixture run coming up as well.
Even the first one after the international break, where the Europa teams play on the Saturday because they don't tend to play on many Sundays after that. The West Ham Villa game's on the Sunday for TV. So
and after that game, they got Everton, Brentford, Forest, Burnley, Palace. Nice games West Ham have got. Cool. So Paul says Newcastle defence are a hard avoid. Probably a bit less.
If you take 4 weeks worth of data based on their fixtures over the next 4 weeks, there is a likelihood that they're going to come near the top. I totally appreciate that. I just don't think the longevity is there. They went on that mad run last year where they were outperforming their XGC massively, and I think that's partially inflated it quite a bit as well. I just like the whole Trippier thing. Like, I do get like, as I say, none of the defenders have been doing particularly well in Sky or in general this season. But for his monster haul yesterday, he got the same as what Son scored, and I don't know. I've got this expectation, not thinking about points scoring, but just in my head, he's locked a clean sheet and he's got 3 assists, and he comes back and he's only got 16 points. It feels a bit, I don't know, it feels a bit underwhelming based on.
He didn't get past it. He came off on 70, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take the 16 points, so I'm not suggesting that by any stretch. And well done to those people that they made the move and the Chilwell to Trippier move. I can see the value in doing that as well.
Cool. We've now got the fixture, the calendar app for the coming weeks. It does so for those who moved off Rodri. There was a 5-for-1 yesterday for Spurs and a few others as well. So he's gonna be banned now for Wolves and Arsenal. He'll play Brighton, and then they don't play again until Sunday the 29th. So there was a clear 5-for-1 there. So for those moved them on there, that made absolute sense. I say, looking at United's fixtures, they just go on and on. They got decent fixtures. They got Man City in the middle of it, but that is only one game, so that's all right. Arsenal still have got a couple of tough fixtures coming up, though, beginning to bend a bit on Saliba. He still looks decent. He's such a Rolls Royce of a player, isn't he? The way he took the ball off some of the Spurs players yesterday, just easily. He's a classy player. So they go away to Bournemouth, then they got Man City and Chelsea. Then after that, they have a decent run starting Saturday 28th. They got the home to Sheffield United, away to Newcastle, home to Burnley after that. So that looks decent. Liverpool, Salah just keeps going on, and he hasn't come into his good fixtures yet. They start in a couple of weeks, but he's looking, for those who haven't got Salah, I personally think you should maybe start to have a look away to get him in, because he's looking superb. And their fixtures are, well, they're crazy really. From Saturday the 21st, well, even before that they got Brighton and Spurs, who were both conceding. Everton, Forest, Luton, and Brentford, three at home of the four from then looks really, really good. And then you come to the teams then who you need captaincy for, like Villa, Spurs, potentially Fulham, potentially Brentford, Burnley, Luton. What's your current thinking around this whole little period, this next week or two, Paul, where these captaincies are needed?
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think you've covered off the main ones. People that are looking at the Forest Brentford game, I think Awonye and Mbuemo, and I probably wouldn't look beyond that if you didn't have one of those already. The Chelsea Fulham game I mentioned, if I turned up to that, whoever you've got, I'd captain. And if you didn't have a player playing, Thiago Silva is the only one that would interest me, because he starts on 5 points rather than 2. With a view of them moving him on probably on the Saturday for somebody that plays on the Sunday the following week, so you get 2 games out of him in quick succession. I do like Bear from Burnley, but a formation doesn't allow, or for whatever reason don't have Nakamba. Would I go back into Nakamba? Possibly not, but then it's not a two transfer move, because I'd just be holding him until the overhaul or until something happened where he was injured or something like that anyway. So that covers off a lot of that. I know we're moving on after the international break. You've got the West Ham Villa game. I don't know that you need to go in early on either of those, that you can pick up that game. They have got a couple of nice fixtures before it, but I don't know that there's any rush before that. And then you've got that Spurs back-to-back. So it could be any moves that you're planning upcoming. Could be saving some money, that if you did want the Spurs double up, perhaps you can't get in time for the Luton game, but then that double would offer you the chance to take out a player that just played and then get in the second Spurs asset, or even the third. I know Romero had a bit of a nightmare from a returns perspective yesterday rather than performance perspective, but he has been doing well points wise this season as well, so there's another opportunity that you could be getting him in there. One few players that we're talking about right at the start of the season that might come into people's thinking, bit of a differential, and with high ceiling, would be Van Dijk and Trent as well. So Liverpool's got an amazing run coming up. The Everton game's difficult because they play on the Saturday and it's just after an international break, and I probably, even though Liverpool play on the Sunday just before that, feels like a luxury move before international break that I wouldn't want to make.
So way to Brighton.
The following week so not the first after the international break, but the second, they're at home to Nottingham Forest on the Sunday. Again, that could be, like if you did double up on Spurs, you could be moving the Spurs player onto them, or there's a few options there, and maybe this will be the talk of Twitter and podcasts and stuff like that, and it will pick up a bit of traction there. But it's interesting that nobody's talking about that yet, and they're so lowly owned when at the start of the season there was a lot of talk about them being underpriced.
Especially Trent, he was everyone. He was the first name on everyone's team sheet, and then he was like 9.9, isn't he? Yeah, looking at Spurs. So I've got a loosest plan. I've got Maddison and Bassoon at the moment. I'm tempted to even go in on Son as well. I want to see him again, just to see if they keep stay with Son. Do you get to see the lineup for Spurs Luton on the Saturday? I'm guessing you don't, do you?
12:30.
Oh, it is a 12:30. Oh, wow. Okay,
yeah.
So you get to see if Richarlison starts in the 9 or Saunders, but tempted to, because that's the Burnley and Chelsea games out of the way, and Forest captaincy's out of the way. I'm tempted to take a bit of a punt on Spurs, Luton, Fulham, and Palace, especially since the two latter ones are captaincy days, and then you could potentially move off.
I don't advise making moves before other players play, but this could be a prime example of where, especially if you were going to captain the one that you were keeping already, and maybe if you've got Maddison already and you're going to captain him, and just add in Son to that to kind of damage limitation when he could run riot. Just getting rid of any Chelsea deadwood that you've got at that point in time might make sense as well.
You see, it's like a daisy chain on from, I don't know, a sexy daisy chain from Awonye, Colwell, or Jackson 3-game burst with 2 captaincies in before hopping on to a Trent or a Van Dijk could be, or Salah if you haven't got him, is a decent move there. Yeah, I think we've covered all the kind of main game days there. Just looking a bit further forwards, Sunday the 5th, Liverpool and Villa, so there'll be a lot of with Liverpool players there. They got Luton, and then after that on Monday the 6th is Tottenham and Chelsea, so you'd expect people to have a Tottenham player there. So yeah, it's looks at the moment pretty straightforward to navigate the captaincies from after next week. I think when you get, we can get rid of Chelsea and get maybe rid of Awoniyi and get Bayer in and kind of wherever else. So after that, it's looking all right until sort of November time. Yeah, interesting. Looking ahead then to this weekend specifically, Saturday the game week starts. We get to the lineups for Villa and Brighton. Wow, look at this. What's this? 6 3 o'clocks. Wow, that is amazing. Wolves, Man City, West Ham, Sheffield United. That could be, I don't know, again, it's one of those, if you're carrying an injured player, if Maddison's out, let's just say, and he's confirmed out for 3 weeks, hopping on a West Ham player, home Sheffield United, when you know they got the captaincy a couple of weeks later, I don't know, just an example, maybe if I haven't got rid of Rodri yet, that home Sheffield United could be so profitable. Like Ward-Prowse has been superb. Bowen's done well as well. Newcastle.
Yeah, I should have seen this somewhere on Twitter, so I apologize. I like giving the source for these things, so I genuinely can't remember, but I'm sure I saw earlier on that teams that had conceded big chances from set pieces, the second highest was 3, and the highest Sheffield United with 9.
Jeez, flipping heck. That would
be.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Ward-Prowse.
Ward-Prowse. Yeah, blimey. Yeah. Good show. Newcastle, Burnley, United, Palace. I think it's going to be a hard game for United. Everton and Luton, Bournemouth and Arsenal, Spurs and Liverpool. What a game that's going to be at 5:30 as well. Really enjoyed the North London derby on the weekend. I thought it was a cracker. Haaland captaincy away to Wolves, or would you be tempted by anything else there? No, there's nothing really.
It's a bit straightforward for me, I think, especially when, like Saka. I guess you could make an argument for Saka more than anybody else in that situation, in my opinion. But it'll be Haaland for me.
I hope Bournemouth scores to wipe the Salah clean sheet. And then Sunday, the first, Forest and Brentford. So yeah, as you said, I think you're right. Those who already got a Forest player, which a lot have, should probably just hold. Right, Brentford haven't shown much in the last couple of games.
If I didn't have someone, what I would be tempted to do is take out a Brighton asset, knowing that they've got Man City and Liverpool in the following 2 games. Bring in a Brentford player, even if you didn't want them longer term, because you could then just put them onto Nakamba or Bayer on Tuesday if you didn't have a player there, or even if you wanted to double up, you just sit in your team and there's a few options there. I imagine a lot of people will have planned for it and have an asset already in place, but if I didn't, that's what I'd likely do.
Fulham and Chelsea, so we've touched on that. We've answered most of the questions around that. So Paul says the only ones worth touching, probably Thiago Silva, maybe Sanchez as well.
I would, if I was doing that, I would go Leno over Sanchez and would hold them for a bit of time afterwards. I think they're at home to Sheffield United in the following week, and Leno's good in Sky anyway because he picks up saves bonus all the time. I think he's either top, if not he's near the top. In fact, I might have this to hand.
Yeah, they do.
He is top.
Yeah,
37 points. Wow. He's top for goalkeepers just now in Sky. So that is another option. I'd rather that than Sanchez. If you had a goalkeeping problem or you wanted somebody out, then yeah, certainly worth consideration.
And on Tuesday, the first double game week of the season, Luton and Burnley. Lots will hold Nakamba. Others could move off. I think I'm going to bring in Bayer. 6.6 looks good for passing. He got passing against United, didn't he?
Yeah, the fixture. He got over 100. He got over 101 passes. I think it was. James Trafford in goals got.
He got 68 or something, didn't
he? Yeah, 69 passes, and he got saves bonus as well. So nice little return for there. Yeah, I think with Burnley's fixtures coming up, he'll get a lot of passing bonus in that run, even if they're conceding the odd goal. Yeah. He's getting the same sort of points as Nakamba, sort of 4 or 5 points a game. So
nice. a few questions. I think we've actually answered the vast majority of them. I did write down a few notes about the ones we had, but I think we've answered most of them. Did any of the questions take your eye, Paul, that we haven't answered yet? Because
I'll try to factor. Yeah, I'll read them during the day as they come in, and I'll try and factor them in.
As far as my list go, I was pretty. I think we've gone through most of them actually. We answered transfer wins, Chelsea, Spurs, and the single. So I think that's it actually. So thank you for everyone for all your questions, which drove the topic 6 weeks, which we will try and do every week now. And that is it for us for this week. As usual, thank you all so much for catching us live, watching and listening. Your continued support is much appreciated, and thank you, Paul. Where can people find you?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty 1 MCANULTY
Stuff, and my handle is at FFH_Fergi. We're also recording the Nip and a Half podcast, so if you play other formats other than Sky, Paul and I record every week. We have a brief kind of informal chat around Sky, Telegraph, Dream Team and FPL. We're competing against each other and 46 other managers. It's really good. So give that a listen on Spotify. Just look for Nip and a Half, and you will find us there. If you like what you watched, please press the like button and remember to subscribe in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast version and leave us some comments. We'll be back next week previewing Sky Game Week 9. We wish you the very best of luck for Game Week 8. Have a great week and goodbye for now.